Hey you all, it's Dana with the Hardin County Extension Office, and I am here to do another video for the Hardin County Public Library. And if you've been following along, we have been doing videos on different appliances. And so I felt like we had done a lot of the kind of new up-and-coming appliances and wasn't really sure what to do this time. And then I remembered that so many of us have a trusty appliance, probably stuffed away in a cabinet if you're like me, or something we just haven't used as often. Because really, we tend to think of it sometimes as a one-hit wonder. But I want to talk to you today about the griddle, because there are so many things that you can do with the griddle that we tend to overlook. A lot of times we think about pancakes, and that's it. And that it's this great appliance for that, and we get it out on Saturday mornings maybe, and that's it, and then we put it away. But in reality, you can make your breakfast, you can make your lunch, you can make your dinner, all right here on the griddle. There's all different types of griddles, and griddles are really starting to make a comeback in a totally different way than our traditional portable electric griddle that you see here. And really, outdoor griddles, griddle grills are kind of becoming a thing, and so that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you about it a little bit today. I'm not going to take a ton of your time, but just kind of tell you a little bit of things about it, some things you can do with it, and then actually I'm going to cook a recipe that we don't traditionally think of as being something you would make on a griddle. And I will tell you, I am in my office, you may be able to tell, and that's very intentional. I'm in my office just to kind of brag about the portability of this, right? I could sit here and make breakfast, lunch, and dinner in my office at any point if I wanted to, because the use of this, the ease of this, the cleanup of this is just so simple and really worth looking into. And so you don't have to be somewhere fancy. This is the perfect appliance to take if you're camping, or if you are tailgating, or just kind of wanting to do something a little bit outdoors. Your griddle can always go with you. And so let's talk about even what a griddle is, because we tend to, again, think of it being this pancake machine, and it really is so much more than that. So a griddle is just a large flat cooking surface. And so it's an appliance that it's flat, it's large, that's about it. And so there are little ones, there are huge ones, there's residential ones, commercial ones, all different types of griddles. Electric, gas, there's even wood griddles, coal griddles. There's multifunction griddles now that have a grill component or a panini press or different things like that. You'll find sometimes that griddles are made of aluminum or steel, and other times you'll find that they are made of cast iron. And so it really, when you go and purchase a griddle, it's all about what you need, what you want, and how you're going to use it the most. So do you have the counter space for something bigger, smaller, whatever it is? Are you going to leave it outside? Or are you looking for the portability option of a griddle? And so I use my griddle all the time. I love to make things on it like pork chops and fish. In addition to, I love making pancakes on my griddle as well. But for me, it's just so much easier than getting out a skillet. Sometimes in a skillet I feel restricted because of the sides. Especially if I'm trying to flip things or anything like that. And so I love that a griddle gives me so much more surface to cook on. Plus, it's the only dish. It's done. I can cook one thing here and one thing here and go from there. So you may even find now, if you have maybe a gas stove or something like that, there are griddle attachments. So I have a gas stove at home, and we have a griddle plate that we can set over our burners, and we can turn two burners into one griddle, which is a really nice option. So I tend to use this quite a bit less now, unless we're going somewhere, because I use that griddle plate now instead. But if you do have an electric griddle, a portable one, you're going to have the griddle plate itself. You're going to have typically your plug. I mean, you can kind of see on here, and this is part of why I have this backwards, but you can adjust and actually preheat your griddle, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So it gives you your temperatures control there. You tend to have a catch plate, I don't know what you want to call it, but something to catch the grease or the trash almost. There a lot of times there's a little hole in your griddle. So if you are making pancakes or something and something has dripped, you can push that to that, and this all catch, and then you can take that out, throw it away. Very easy to do there. I shouldn't try to do it while I'm have it leaned. And then you will have another grease tray that we tend to see go on this more open side of our griddle. So one of the things while we're talking about grease, one of the big benefits besides just the large cooking surface of a griddle is your food actually is cooked healthier on a griddle, typically because we use less oil. And so you just kind of oil the surface. Olive oil is a great option, a healthy option. And so you're not using as much as we tend to in a skillet. And then because we have this tray here, as we cook, or say we're making burgers or something, and they then produce some grease, you actually can push that off and not continue cooking within that if you want to. So you can continuously cook or push off grease and things like that in your tray, either this one or this one here. And so a nice piece about the griddle, which is usually pretty handy. So again, we talked about all the different things that you can make on a griddle. We tend to just think of pancakes. You can do pancakes, eggs, omelets, bacon, sausage, those traditional breakfast foods that we tend to think of. Hash browns, you could just do tomatoes and mushrooms, whatever you wanted to put in your hash browns, things like that. But you can do grilled cheeses, you can do hot ham and cheese, you can do burgers, you can do fish, pork chops, steak, shrimp, chicken. You can do pizza on your griddle, you can do dessert on your griddle. You can make tortillas, French toast, all kinds of things. You can reheat your meats if you want. If you've got maybe some pulled pork or something from the day before and you want to just heat that up really quickly, a griddle is a great way to do that. And the thing about a griddle is that it tends to bake the surface of our food. So even though it seems very similar to a pan frying method because it kind of replaces that skillet option, the difference is instead of frying our food, it really does give that more of a baked sensation. And so it bakes the surface of our food, and then it does it with less oil, things like that. So it is quite a bit healthier. We talked about how it's perfect for camping, beach days, ball games, tailgating, whatever it is. And then again, just not to mention the easy cleanup of this. You can unplug everything, stick this whole thing in your sink, in the dishwasher, whatever it is. Now, if you have an outdoor one, that's a little bit more difficult, but get a scraper and just scrape everything off, and it's really simple. There are a couple tips to keep this in good shape. One being that kind of like cast iron, we're going to treat it, especially if you have a cast iron one, we're going to kind of treat it the same way, in the sense that before we cook our food, we're going to pre-season our griddle. And so that just means you're going to rub oil all the way over it, and then you're going to heat that oil up. That not only is going to help your food cook, but it's going to help keep the surface of your griddle in good shape. Then we're going to cook our food, scrape everything off if there is any excess, and then you're actually going to do the same thing. You're going to season your griddle plate. So again, cover it in oil, heat that oil up. That actually helps prevent rust on top of our griddle. And then you can just clean it normally if you want. Obviously cast iron we take care of a little bit different, but then you just clean it normally as you would, depending on what surface type it is. And so that's not a step you have to do, but it is a step that will just prolong the life of your griddle. I have had this one for many, many years. And besides a couple of scuffs and things like that, it really kind of does look, and it does work just like it's brand new. So the ease of the griddle too comes in the fact that we have this large flat cooking surface, and so we're going to take it, we're going to slap our meat on it, and then we're just going to let it sit, right? So it's got the oil underneath because we seasoned it to start with. We've put our meat on. We're just going to turn that meat once or twice if possible. No matter what cooking surface you're on, the more you flip your meat, typically the tougher your meat gets. And so that's something to note. So it's easier to watch, I think, on a griddle than it is in a skillet where you have the sides, or obviously in a closed top grill or something like that. It's easier to see how your food is cooking, and so it's a little bit easier to know when to flip your food over, and so we get less turns typically on a griddle than we do on a lot of the other ones. So we tend to get more tender meat just because naturally we kind of get to see that whole cooking process happen, and we're not so anxious and flipping all the time, checking all the time, things like that. We do still want you to use a meat thermometer whenever you've cooked on your griddle. No matter what cooking method you choose, meat thermometer obviously is always going to be the way to go. But for most things, like I said, you're going to heat up your oil, you're going to choose your preheat temperature. So let's say for like a lot of the breakfast foods, we do 350 degrees. For steaks, I would recommend 300. and then stick your steaks on. 3 minutes on one side, flip it over, 3 minutes on the next side, again depending on kind of how you like it, but and then you're done. Your steak is done. You got to see it all happen. It's great. It's a perfect way to sear meat or scorch veggies, just all these different things. And so there's not really a lot to say about the griddle because it is so simple, but you can do so much on it. And so I actually am going to show you, if you've heard me talk before, you've probably heard me talk about our Plated Up Kentucky Proud initiative that we have through the Cooperative Extension Service. It's with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture as well as the University of Kentucky dietetics students. And so what we do is we take popular recipes and we tend to cut out fat, cut out calories, cut out sugar, maybe replace and add in more vegetables or add in more nutrients, things like that. And so we have over 100 recipes here at the office. You can find them all online. But I went ahead and picked out of what we had here, all the ones that you could do on the griddle. And so it doesn't have to be a griddle recipe. It can be something that it tells you to cook it in the skillet, or it tells you to cook it on the grill, or different things like that. You can a lot of times make it on the griddle. So we've got a sweet and spicy Brussels sprouts, and I'll post all of these at the end of the video. I'll have it run through these and you can screenshot any that you want. Grilled sweet potatoes, chicken and fried cauliflower rice. So a griddle is a great way to do like a stir fry or something where you're mixing a lot of ingredients that all need to heat up together. A griddle is a great option for that. A grilled pepper and portobello mushroom sandwich. Again, a stir fry, broccoli and beef stir fry. Balsamic stir fry vegetables. Grilled cauliflower dippers with guacamole, Italian turkey sausage and peppers. Italian chicken summer squash skillet. And then the one I'm actually going to make is these lean green lettuce tacos. And so you'll see that one here in just a minute. But then we also have, in addition to the Plated Up Kentucky Proud recipes, we also have recipes that are part of Cook Wild Kentucky. And so this was done through the University of Kentucky, again, the Cooperative Extension Service, the SNAP program, so Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources. We all partnered together to make these recipes. And they're just ones that use wild game that we don't tend to have a lot of recipes for. And so we probably have 10 recipes or maybe more than that here at the office. And so I got some of those out as well because hunting season is upon us. And so baked fish fillets with dill sauce, venison steak, sauteed frog legs, or deer camp breakfast sausage. All of those could be made on the grill as well. And again, I'll put those recipes at the end. But again, just to kind of show you that you don't have to have a recipe for a griddle for it to be something that you can make on the griddle. And then also to show you how many different things you can do. So all these different meats, vegetables, things like that can all be done on this as well. All right, so we are going to make these lean green lettuce tacos. You can see on the recipe that it actually calls for ground beef, and I'm going to use chicken instead. Just personal preference, and to kind of show you that not only can you do a lot on the griddle, but anytime you have a recipe, you can play with it and make it however you want. So this time I replaced the ground beef with chicken, and I'm not going to do the red onion, and I'm not going to do the rice. But that, again, is just personal preference, but this is a delicious recipe. I've had it with the ground beef, with the rice, and loved it that way as well. I like a lot of things about this recipe, but it does include several vegetables, which is a good thing. So we've got the lettuce leaves as our taco shell, and then we've got zucchini and corn, and we've got some black beans and tomato sauce and taco seasoning, and then again that protein I did chicken, and we are going to do it all right here on this griddle. So I'm just going to kind of let you see how I do it. It's very simple. You can kind of see here, I've got the olive oil there in the middle. I'm going to go ahead, while I've just turned it on, so it's just heating up, but I'm going to go ahead and move that around just a little bit. You don't have to have a brush to do that by any means. But I am going to be doing several different ingredients on this griddle, and so the more spread out I can get that just helps us. It's non-stick already, which is one of the things that helps make a griddle a healthier option. You're not having to use near as much oil to get your food to just move easily throughout the pan. And so we just used a tablespoon of olive oil there. You could use avocado oil. You can really use any kind of oil, but avocado oil or olive oil are going to be your healthiest options. And so I've already prepped everything. You can kind of see I've already washed and dried our lettuce leaves. I've chopped up our zucchini. I've got our black beans and our corn out ready to go, tomato sauce. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and start cooking this chicken. And again, you can kind of hear it start to sizzle and sear just like you would if it was in a skillet. But again, we get that extra bonus of I can see everything that's happening here without the rim of the skillet kind of getting in the way of my vision just a little bit. And so once this starts to get to a point of being cooked, then the rest of this recipe is really just heating the food up. We want to heat up our zucchini, and we do want to make it tender, but then we're going to add in the beans and the corn, really just to heat them up. And then we'll add a little bit of tomato sauce. I'm not going to use near as much as the recipe calls for, simply because since I'm not doing ground beef, there's not so much for it to mix in with the one piece of chicken. And obviously I would do a lot of pieces of chicken on this if I was serving a family or, you know, doing a program in person or anything like that. But since this really is just a demo, I didn't want to waste the chicken, and so I'm just going to do the one piece to just kind of show you how it cooks so easily on the griddle. So you can see it start to cook there on the edges as we see it turn that white color. And then what you see over in the corner is the taco seasoning. You could do this as a traditional taco recipe if you wanted. You actually could heat up your tortilla on your griddle as well. Put a little bit of cheese on it, melt it right on the griddle. Actually load your tortilla there on the griddle, and then even fold it over and make it a quesadilla, and have that bonus benefit of it kind of sealing with that cheese together. Since we're going to use the lettuce leaves, we won't do that, but that is definitely a benefit if you wanted to. Same thing if you did the ground beef. You could do turkey, you could do steak. I would likely shred this chicken at the end for my lettuce leaf taco. The lettuce that I have here, I actually did the leaf lettuce. So all of the pieces are more of this leafy green, darker green. That's going to be our healthier option, but it's going to be more like a soft taco shell. Whereas if I wanted to do a head of lettuce and get some of those crunchier pieces, some iceberg lettuce, something like that, some of those crunchier pieces, it would give you more of the similarities of a crunchy taco shell. So it really is personal preference. Good rule of thumb, the darker the green vegetable is, the better it is. So that's why one of the reasons I did go with the leafy green lettuce instead, but really, you know, that can go either way. And that's obviously a healthier option regardless. So while this cooks, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the other recipes that, again, you'll see. We do have those here at the Extension office, recipe cards just like this one, or I went through that list earlier, and I'll just kind of show you here, even though it's on there. They are just on these nice cardstock, and then the recipe is on one side, and the back side tells you about the main vegetable that's being highlighted. Or it may not always be a vegetable, it may be fruit or some other sort of Kentucky produce. And then it's going to tell you when it's in season, the nutrition facts about it, how to select it, store it, prepare it, and preserve it. And so these cards are so much more than just a traditional recipe card, because you really do get all those bonus benefits there on the back. And then, like I said, if you don't have the cards or don't have a chance to stop by our office to get a card, you can see right here the website where you can see all of the recipes that we have with the Plated Up Kentucky Pride Project. So it's just platedup.ca.uky.edu. So make sure to check that out, because again, this handful that I have here is nothing compared to what we have in our stash. And then on top of that, and I'm going to go ahead and flip. Let me try to make you. Oops, sorry about the shakiness there. Go ahead and flip this over. And that is just white like we want our chicken to be. We'll add our seasoning and stuff here in just a minute. But these recipes are a very similar project, but again, to highlight some of the wild game that we have here in Kentucky that is traditionally hunted. And we just saw a lot of, you know, deer being made into jerky and steaks and things like that. People, you know, we fry the fish, we fry the chicken, things like that. And so they took, and like I said, we probably have 10 or 15 of these, but they took these different sources of wild game and just did the same thing, where they made healthy, delicious recipes that's something different that you can do with any animals that you harvest. And so we do have some of those here at the office as well, that we would be happy to pass on to you, or you're welcome to call us and we'll stick them in the mail to you. So chicken is cooking. I'm going to go ahead and add some of our zucchini. I like zucchini a lot, so I'm going to do a bunch. But that really is kind of up to you on what you would prefer to do. But again, we're letting our zucchini sit on here to tenderize and heat up for when it goes into our lean green lettuce taco. And so there's our zucchini. I'm going to go ahead and add our black beans and our corn as well. And I'm just going to dump again. And yes, I am still cooking this in my office because the portable ability of our griddle here is one of my favorite things about it. And so you can hear it's kind of quieted down, but I'm just going to kind of move this over. And so that all of my vegetables there, that one is cut up, it just doesn't want to separate there, can get a little bit of heat while they're all still being cooked together for when I add my tomato sauce and my taco seasoning here in just a minute. I'm going to reach across there. This, to me, looks like a good enough dish that I don't even need the rice, which is why I left it out. But this recipe does call for you to make some brown rice, to put some cilantro and some lime juice in that rice, and then that would actually be your first layer of your lettuce taco. So you would take your lettuce leaf, we would line it with as much rice that you wanted, and then as much of the chicken or ground beef and vegetable mixture as you wanted. But when you look at it like this, I mean, I would want just this on my plate. And so, like I said, I'm not going to use near as much of the tomato sauce as the recipe calls for. It calls for 4 ounces. I'm just going to do enough to kind of mix in with my veggies there. But since I don't have that ground beef component for it to mix in with as well, I don't need as much. And then since I'm only doing one piece of chicken and not multiple, it does call for a 1 ounce package of taco seasoning. And I'm not doing near as much of that either. And so again, kind of the same thing with the tomato sauce. We're really just heating it up and kind of mixing those flavors together. So I'm just going to kind of cover everything that I have here, mix some of that taco seasoning up, and I may use a little bit more of that, which is one of my favorite parts of cooking, is that I can kind of play around with what I have, what a recipe calls for, what I like. If I don't want as much, I don't have to add it. If I want more, I can add more. Or maybe I would add in different things. Like I read this recipe, and even whenever I was at the grocery store, as I was doing it, I thought, man, I would really like peppers in this. If there were peppers in strips or dices or anything like that, I think that would be a really great addition to this as well. And so maybe for me, I would substitute peppers instead of the rice that I didn't do. But like I said, and I'm really just playing with this now to try to show you what I can on the screen there. I'm going to go ahead and try to cover our chicken so it gets some of that flavor in. And I'm going to switch it, or flip it, I mean, so that I can put some taco seasoning on the other side. Figure out a place for my tongs to go here. So I'm going to put a little bit more taco seasoning on all of it because I do really enjoy taco seasoning, especially on my meats. And I did get the low sodium option of the black beans, of the corn, and of the taco seasoning. Now, one of the benefits of the griddle also is if I felt that I wanted this to be a little bit warmer, you can hear that it's kind of settled down. All I have to do, and I'm going to reach across and show you, my temperature is right there. All I would have to do is go ahead and turn that up. My light comes back on to let me know that it needs to continue heating up, because once it reaches the temperature that you've set it at, it kind of slows down and shuts off a little bit. So I could turn this up if I wanted to. You'd hear that sizzle kind of start to come back as it heated up, or you can even see my tomato sauce has started to sizzle again if I felt like I needed that. I am going to show you too, say I was cooking something and something came off, or I didn't need, or whatever it was, my little trash can feature here. I'm certain that's not the official title of it, but I just drop it down in that hole, and then for easy cleanup later I just pull that out, dump that, and move on. So there again is something, and I've got it turned up again just to kind of show you how that worked, but there again is something that I would just eat normally on my plate, just exactly like that. I'm going to go ahead and turn this down. One of the other things that I like about the griddle is how quickly it responds. Sometimes I feel like on an electric cooktop with my skillet, it has a hard time heating and cooling quickly, and I feel like a griddle does that much more efficiently. I could be totally wrong about that, but I do always feel like I have a little bit more control with my griddle than I do a skillet sometimes. And so what I would do, like I said, we would take our lean green lettuce taco, I would line it with that rice first, and then I would just scoop this straight from the griddle and put however much I wanted there. And then eat that just like a taco shell with my, it would normally have ground beef. I would do, like I said, I did chicken. So I would either cut that or shred that first, stick it in my taco shell, and we are good to go. Just a fun, different taco alternative there that you were doing totally on the griddle really quickly. So an option for sure. Again, if you all have questions at all, please do not hesitate to ask. If you would like recipes mailed to you or emailed to you, anything like that, I would be more than happy to send those your way. Thank you all for watching as always, and I will see you next month.